as we try not to let it influence us, the world around us and the people around us, they help us create those stories. My parents told me as a kid that we are not an athletic family, and I believed them. I never tried in gym class, never went out for sports, and I never did anything even remotely athletic for decades. Suddenly, a friend encouraged me to try running, and I figured, well, why not, right? What do you have to lose? So I gave it a try. So at the age of 27, I began to run. And remember that question before about half marathons? Now I'm in front of you having run 2 half marathons, climbed 13 miles up Pikes Peak, which is an over 14,000 foot mountain. But hey, my family's not athletic, right? I let someone else write my story. I didn't even try and see if they were wrong. I just believed what they said was true. Slide. Thank you. You're amazing. You can have candy if you want. You have earned it. There's chocolate. Lesson number 1. Don't ever let someone else write a chapter in your story. I'm going to say that again. Don't ever let someone else write a chapter in your story. That being said, lots of things happen in our stories we have no control over. Parents get divorced, friends move away, and loved ones die. When I was 18 years old, a couple years ago, I had a boyfriend who I absolutely loved. 100% sure I was going to marry him. He even moved from Wisconsin, where I'm from, to Laramie, where I was a sophomore at the University of Wyoming, to be with me. On our way back home for Christmas break, we got into a car accident, and he was killed. I had no control over that part of my story. Slide, please. Here comes lesson 2. You always have a choice in your own story. I could have slowly but surely gotten lost in the sorrow and sadness that followed his death, turned to drugs or alcohol, and just ignored everything, right? I would have had every excuse to. But I didn't. I had my days, for sure. But I made the choice right away, as soon as it had sunk in that he was never coming back, that I was going to keep moving forward and create a new life. Not for him, for me. I didn't ignore the pain, but I did focus on the joy that life still held. I was 18, and I had faith that there was a reason I was still around. 20 years later, standing in front of you, feel pretty confident that I was right. And here's, speaking of that 20 years, a not-so-secret secret. Adults are not smarter than you. I'm going to say that again. Feel free to record this if you want to real quick. Adults are not smarter than you. Seriously. If I had to sit through 1 hour of any of your math classes, my head would legitimately explode. Not an exaggeration. It's just, I've had time to live through more stories than you, which leads me to slide lesson 3. You have to live through the stories to get to the lesson. Say it again. You have to live through the stories to get to the lesson. I can tell my son, start working on your paper now, even though you have 2 weeks to do it. It's not because I'm mean and bossy. I mean, I am bossy, but I'm not mean most of the time. I don't want to ruin his fun. And it's not because I'm smarter than him. It's because I've been the kid that put off writing the paper until the night before it was due. And that ending was not a happy one. Remember that 2.75 graduating GPA from high school? Yeah, that's the reason why. I'll be able to tell my daughter when she gets her heart broken by a boy that, yes, it totally sucks, and hopefully I'm allowed to say that. But I promise everything will eventually not hurt as much as it does right now, and that she honestly, truly will find another guy to date. Chances are he's going to be way better. Okay, if I'm being honest, he might not be way better, but, you know, it's worth a shot, right? I can tell her this not because I'm smarter, but because I've lived that story about 15 times myself. And even though I'm still mad that Travis dumped me 2 days before Valentine's Day my freshman year of college, yes, that's a true story, and yes, I'm still mad, I also eventually recovered from the heartbreak and went on to lead a pretty happy life. Adults are not smarter than you. We've just lived more stories. And you guys have to get through the stories no matter how crappy they are to get to that lesson at the end. And it's worth it. It's always worth it to get through that story. Here's the final lesson about stories, and then we're going to move on. Lesson 4. Slide, please. I don't even have to say slide anymore. You are on the ball. Give others and yourself the chance to change the story. How many of you have utterly and royally screwed up? There you go. Every single, come on, do not even. Every single hand better be in the air. Thank you. Throw your hands in the air. I just probably made myself old with that. I'm talking, how many of you told the secret you know you should have kept and lost the friendship? Lost your temper with your parents and said some things you didn't even mean, but there's no way you can take it back now because you said it and you are going to stick by it. Yeah, I've been there too. It's okay, they'll still love you anyway. Or, like the story from above, how many of you have waited until it was way too late to start the assignment and paid the price? Yeah, yeah, procrastinators united. I always tell my kids, you make bad choices and bad things happen. Let me say that again. You make bad choices, bad things happen. You make good choices, what do we think? You make good choices, good things happen. One more time, you make good choices. Okay. Even if you make that good choice after a really, really, really bad choice, you're still going to be better off than if you kept on making bad choices. Lesson 4, give others and yourself the chance to change the story. We've all messed up. And we need to offer the same kindness to others that we would hope for and give them and ourselves the chance to change the story. After all, what's a good book or movie without a plot twist or an epic fail or two, right? Same with the story of your life. You need those plot twists. You need those epic fails, so when you get to the ending, man, you can appreciate it. Knowing how your stories have affected you will allow you to serve others with similar stories in a better way. Being aware of the new stories others are trying to write will allow you to serve them in the way that they need. Remembering that you don't know everyone's story will allow you to treat them or serve them with kindness. Did you notice I mentioned that word kindness? You guys remember that from our skills? Huh? See that lead in there? Slide, please, ma'am. Let's take a moment to see what the actual definition of the word is. Kindness. The quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. Some synonyms, I know you guys already know what that means because you're smarter than me, for that are warmth, helpfulness, understanding, compassion, and thoughtfulness. Warmth, helpfulness, understanding, compassion, and thoughtfulness. Part of your mission as members of FCCLA is to help achieve global cooperation and harmony. Yeah, I went to the website and did some stalking. Can you imagine, and if anyone watched the debate last night, you might really agree with this. Can you imagine if just half of the world spent every day trying to put more kindness, more warmth, more understanding into the world? The positive change would be massive. What I want you to remember about kindness is that it's really about, that's a big error, let's try that again. What I want you to remember about kindness is that it is really about the day-to-day and the small things we do to serve others. Holding a door for someone, not letting your impatience show while you wait in line for your teacher's attention, A sympathy smile at the kid that obviously just bombed that test. Kindness is doing what you can, where you are, with what you have. You don't have to give $3,000 to that charity if you don't have it. Kindness is doing what you can, where you are, with what you have. By the way, side note, and just trust me, that whole lived through the stories thing, okay? It's not that I'm smarter. Choosing kindness over revenge or anger is not weakness. Let me say that again. Choosing kindness over revenge and anger is not weakness. As long as you're sticking to story lesson number 1. Anyone remember lesson number 1? Don't let anyone write a chapter in your story. If you are making the choice to stand tall and be the better person consciously and letting them do those things that are hurting you, that's cool because you're taking power over that story. Okay? Don't let anyone else write your story. Next word, integrity. Slide, please. All right. Tough one. I know adults that struggle with this one, okay? This is going to be a lifelong one for you to be working on. Let's hit the dictionary. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Read that again. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. To be a true person of integrity, you must first know your story and have an idea of what your future story will look like. You need to look at the big picture. You must know clearly what your definition of right and wrong are. This one takes time and experience. You're going to have a few stories under your belt to know where you stand on some issues, right? Real easy to say, oh, this. Then it happens to you and you realize, whew, maybe I shouldn't have judged that person quite so harshly now that I'm doing the exact same thing. Some of you may use the Bible as your guide. Others, what your parents have taught you. And still, more of you may have a mishmash of things you've read or views of people you admire that have become your moral compass. Your way you decide, is this right or is this wrong? Is this a good choice or is this a bad choice? A person of integrity knows who they are, and they won't be moved by what's popular at the time. A person of integrity shows what they believe with actions, not just words. I've been standing in front of you talking about kindness and writing your own story and about integrity. How would you feel about all these things I'm telling you if you run into me at the store and see me belittling the cashier? How would that work for you? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Right? Yeah. You'd be hurt. You'd be mad and you'd be sad and probably a whole lot of other things. As a person with integrity, I practice what I preach. As the person that's getting on the radio and talking to our community, to thousands of people every single day, you better believe that I practice what I preach. As the person that's writing articles, hundreds, at this point probably thousands of articles on parenting, on being a good friend, on how you can serve your community, you better believe I practice what I preach. And when I screw up, I'm the first person to say, whew, should have handled that better, I'm sorry. And I will do better, and I will be better moving forward. Another side note here, a person of integrity does not force their beliefs of what is right and wrong on others. They share their beliefs in a firm yet respectful way, and better yet, live a life that's an example of these beliefs and inspires other people to do the same. Next word, lead. This is where I picked the one I wanted instead of going with everything you guys. It starts with L, so technically it still works, right? Okay. This word has multiple meanings and definitions. Here's the one I like best, though. To lead, to show someone the way to a destination by going in front of or beside them. I'll read that again. to show someone the way to a destination by going in front of or beside them. It doesn't say, tell them what you think they should do. Does it? It doesn't say boss them around, tell them the best way to do something. It says go with them. And that's what leaders do. They walk the walk, they talk the talk. They're willing to fail. They're willing to have hard conversations and make people uncomfortable. They are with those who they are leading in mind, body, and spirit. So one of my favorite people to learn from is Brene Brown. Has anyone ever heard of her before? Brene Brown. Okay. You're going to need to Google her when we get done, trust me. She's got some phenomenal, super quick TED Talks you can watch on YouTube. She has best-selling books. She has a podcast, Brene Brown. And I'll have some of my favorite books by her up here in a minute. I'm actually going to let her share something with you about courage and leadership, because there's actually no way I can say it better than her. We're going to watch a video, because I know you guys need a break from all this. For a minute. It is literally like a minute, and I don't know, maybe it's actually like 3 minutes, I don't know. Real quick video, and then we're gonna, as, I don't know, what's the teacher language? We're gonna talk about it, we're gonna pull it apart, we're gonna dissect it. Anyway, you know what I mean. So slide, and then let's see, this is gonna be a test to see if this works or not, okay? And again, we can just set it for me maybe. It's a touch screen, so let's give it a second, see if she works maybe. Thank you for your patience. Now would be a great time for you to enjoy your candy. Wait, maybe it's working? Are we there? Okay, there's the little play button on it, so that's a start.
I remember being at Fort Bragg and asking a group of Special Forces troops, give me an example of courage that you experienced in your life, on the field or off the field, or you saw in someone else, that didn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure.
Right.
And there was this long silence, and finally a young man stood up and said, 3 tours, ma'am, there is no courage without vulnerability.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get to courage without the capacity to deal with uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And we've mythologized vulnerability.
We've created this ideal
yes.
that's ultimately unrealistic.
Yeah, and it's like that it's weakness, that it's oversharing.
Right.
That, people will say to me, I read Dare to Lead. I'm going to be a brave leader. How much should I cry? How much should I share? I'm like...
As if there's a cheat sheet, right?
And as if we want, oversharing, crying leaders. I mean, like, if it's a genuine thing, do it. But I'm not saying be vulnerable for vulnerability's sake. I'm saying when things get hard and uncomfortable, don't tap out of difficult conversations.
Right.
Stay in them, lean into them, even when they're uncomfortable, awkward, hard.
Okay, so if you want to go back one. There you go. Thank you. Is my still? Oh, hey, yeah, it's still working. All right, let's talk about this. Unpack it. That's the phrase I was looking for. We're going to watch the video and we're going to unpack it. Not as Swab's coming up with it now 2 minutes later, but we got it. So vulnerability. What she's talking about there, other people may refer to vulnerability as being a risk taker. Okay? If you're willing to be vulnerable, that means you're willing to mess up. I'm willing to be vulnerable and get in front of you, mess up my words, trip, say something that you think is the lamest thing you've ever heard an adult say in your whole entire life. Probably I did a couple of those. But I'm willing to do it, and that takes courage, right? Another one of Brene Brown's things that she says is she's only going to listen to criticism from other people that are willing to get up there with her. I'm not going to listen to anyone that says I'm a terrible speaker that's never once in their life gotten up and done a 45-minute talk for a group. Okay? I'm not going to listen to your opinion. But if it's someone that has done that and they talk to me in a respectful way, then I 100% will zip my mouth and learn everything I can from you. Same thing for you. And so many people in this world are afraid to even try because they're afraid that people are going to laugh at them. They're afraid they're going to be terrible at it. And they're afraid that it's not going to go the way that they want. And so because of that, nothing ever happens and nothing ever changes. A lot of people cannot be leaders because they're afraid to have uncomfortable conversations. Real awkward to have to say to someone, you were told to write 3 pages about China, and you have showed up now at our group meeting twice without anything done. This is unacceptable. I'm not okay with this, and this is not fair to everyone else in the group. How are we going to fix it? How many of you are just getting sick to your stomach even thinking about having that conversation, right? Nothing I said was rude. Nothing I said was disrespectful, demeaning, or wrong, right? I'm calling someone on their stuff in a respectful, appropriate way. I'm letting them know how their decision is negatively impacting everyone around them. And I'm saying, let's work together to fix this. Nothing wrong with what I said. But I know there's a whole lot of you that are dying inside just thinking of having that conversation with someone. And some of you are the adults feeling that way. That is what makes a leader. Someone that's willing to have uncomfortable conversations to make better things happen for everyone around them. That's how you can serve your community. You see a problem, you don't just ignore it, you don't just complain about it. You find the person you need to have that uncomfortable conversation with, and you do it, and stuff gets done. That was mom voice, sorry about that. I could hear the mom lecture voice coming in there, but that is how strongly I feel about this. So many people are scared to take a chance and fail, to have a conversation that might make someone uncomfortable. That they stay in the same story their entire lives. No plot twists, no excitement, same job, same life, day after day. Be willing to be a leader, vulnerability, courage, but do it with kindness, integrity, and be willing to write a new chapter to your story. And trust me when I say, you're going to find ways to serve people in your life that will change the world. We're on our last letter, so if you want to hit twice. Skip Renee, next one. There you go, perfect. Hired. Will you go on the road with me? Done. I'll pay you in chocolate. Okay, last but not least, laughter. Okay, if you haven't figured out that this one's vital to life, after this we're going to go sit down and have a coffee, okay, and an uncomfortable conversation. I'm a huge fan of saying, what's terrible now will be a funny story later. You guys ever heard that one? What is terrible now is going to be a funny story later. And I'm sure all of you can think of something that was super miserable at the time, but now, whatever you tell that story, are you dying laughing the whole entire time? Put your hand in the air if you've got one of those stories. Absolutely ridiculous. Worst day of your life when it happened, and now it is like that one that you pull out at the party with new people. You're like, hey, I got a story for you, right? A willingness to laugh at yourself means you're not afraid to make mistakes, which means you're the one that's going to be out there doing all the stuff that everyone is scared to try. Let's get real. Family, that's part of what you guys talk about in FCCLA, right? Okay, if you plan to have a family someday, you better be able to laugh. All those crazy things that kids do, like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to come up with a couple examples. Emptying a whole jar of honey on your floor and figure skating in it. Or hiding under the table with their brother and taking one bite out of every single piece of bread and a whole entire loaf. Okay? Funny now, right? Was not funny at the time. Okay? Laughter is a way to release tension, to bond with those around you, and to just feel good. Life is worth living as long as there's a laugh in it. Lucy Maud Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables, best book series ever. I don't know how the new TV show on Netflix is. I can't bring myself to watch it because I love the one from the 70s, just dating myself there. So I know that we're kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty. I can fill the extra time with an activity, or we can be done. What would you like me to do? Activity. Okay, I have been told by the illustrious Haley that you guys all have notebooks and pens in your backpacks. Get them out. Does anyone want candy that didn't get any? Okay. Come on up and get it. Right here, this bag. Come on up and get it. Don't be shy. You put your hands in here. Get it. Come on. Come on. You want a candy? Come on. Okay, I'm just going to throw and it's your fault. Who else wanted some? Hands in the air. Oh my gosh, all the way back there. Ah. Can you believe my son's the quarterback with a mom that throws like that? Seriously. Okay, who else needed candy but didn't get any? I don't want anyone telling their mom that Prairie Mac didn't give me any candy. Anyone else back there? Okay. You guys are making me work. Whew. Good thing yeah, sorry, I told you guys you got the duck and cover. So sorry. I don't pretend to be anything I'm not. Okay, who else? Wait, I know I saw some here. Sorry. Oh man, hold on, let me try again. I'm gonna do an overhand, are you ready? Yeah! You want some? Okay. Oh my gosh, okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, sorry guys. Look, you were barely warmed, okay? Okay, everyone have pen and paper out. And if you don't, that's your loss. Don't be vulnerable. Don't learn. That's cool. Your choice. Will you hit slide button again? Is it okay to be rude and sarcastic when you're teaching people now? It's been a while since I've been in front of this. Okay. We're going to work on using your story to serve others. Okay? No one's going to look at your paper. I'm not going to make you talk to anyone. Okay? You do not have to share this with anyone. There's no sharing. This is just for you. Be vulnerable. Be willing to take the risk. I want you to write down 3 chapters in your story. For me, if I had to write down 3 chapters, I would say John getting killed, right? Pretty pivotal moment in my life. I would say meeting my husband. And then I would say becoming a mom. And then probably I should throw in there, like, deciding to go do the radio show, because that was absolutely, utterly terrifying. I went home and cried after I did my first show, not even kidding. So, 3 chapters in your story. Maybe parents getting divorced, maybe boyfriend dumping you, maybe moving, maybe breaking your leg when you were 3. 3 chapters in your story. You can think in your head if you don't want to write it down. Just saying writing it down will work better. And I know you guys can see the questions that are up there, so if you want to keep on going, you can. This is a really good activity to do when you are feeling lost, if you're not sure, maybe it's time to start applying to colleges and deciding what your career choice is going to be. It's amazing when you stop and look at those pivotal moments in your life, how you can pull from that and it can help you make decisions. So I'm assuming everyone's got their 3 chapters in their story. Now I want you to go back. I guess I should have told you to do spaces, but whatever, you figured it out. You're intelligent, almost adults. What lessons did you learn? So for me, when John died, I learned that you can make plans, doesn't mean it's going to happen that way. I learned how many people loved me because there were a whole lot of people that were just as devastated as me by that. I learned how strong I was because 2 days after his funeral, I had to head back to Laramie because I had a 40-hour-a-week job I was working to put myself through college, and I couldn't take time off or I'd have to drop out of school. And I had a 21 credit hour course load on top of that 40-hour-a-week graveyard shift at the Loaf and Jug Mini Mart on 15th and Grand, if anyone's ever been there. Used to be my hangout. And I learned to appreciate things a lot more once I had something taken away from me. Meeting my husband, that was a pretty pivotal moment. Definitely took a chance on that guy. Whew. I don't know if I could say this, but he cannot remember the first night we met because he may have had too many beers in the beer tent at Frontier Days. Something about those cowboys, though, I'll tell you what. Took a chance, right? Talk about being vulnerable. Going on a date with someone, boyfriend, girlfriend, you got 50-50, your heart is going to get broken and it is not going to turn out at all like you want. But oh man, is it worth it? That one worked out. Couple dozen before, not so much. But it's worth it. Being a mom, whew, we do not have enough time to go through all the things I've learned with that one. Number one thing, I am not as patient as I thought I was when I was a teacher. Number 2 thing, holy cow, do we love you guys. Okay, so hopefully everyone's taken some time now to write down those lessons. Will you shout at me when we have like 2 minutes left, or when you need me to stop? Okay. Now, what are 3 ways you can serve others because of your story? How can that broken-hearted breakup help you be a better friend? How can that divorce, that down and dirty, miserable 2 years in your family's life while everyone works through it, how can that help you to have better relationships in your future? How are you going to rewrite that story for yourself that you watched your parents go through? And I'm not talking about putting up a wall and never letting anyone in. Three ways you can serve others because of your story. Mom and sister in my life had breast cancer. I went ahead and had a preventive mastectomy, which means I chopped them off so I didn't have to worry about getting cancer. Through the first punch. Super embarrassing to talk about, am I right? Super embarrassing probably for you guys to hear. But guess what? Me telling my story, me sharing it, me letting people know what it was like to go through not being able to use my arms for 3 weeks at a time when I had 5 kids at home. There are now thousands of women that have sent me emails that said because they read my story, they had the strength to change theirs. They no longer live in fear every day that they're going to die of breast cancer. They knew they had a choice. I used my story, which was super miserable and kind of embarrassing, and I have saved lives with it, and I can say that with the utmost confidence, because I was willing to be vulnerable. And if you don't think there's been some backlash for me sharing that story, you got another thing coming. But I don't care, because it's my story and I'm going to write it. And I'm not going to let other people tell me what right and wrong is, when I know, because I've got integrity. And I can let them know that in a very respectful yet firm way. With kindness. See how we're tying all those words in, guys? Who can you serve with your story? Me talking on the blog about how being a mom, while amazing, definitely has some nitty-gritty miserable days, like not showering for 3 days at a time because you're exhausted and you'd rather take a 10-minute nap. And having my kids eat macaroni and cheese for a whole week straight, which my babysitter can vouch for. How can I serve other mothers with that story? By being honest, so they know they're not alone. Yeah, I see you nodding. Yeah, yeah. Not alone, not just you. I got you, boo. But if no one talks about it, if no one shares the reality, if all I'm doing is putting up picture perfect, look at how amazing my hair is, which by the way, this isn't even my real hair. I've got someone else's sewed in there, just so you know. I know, weird, creepy, right? But it works. If I'm only putting, we can talk about it later if anyone needs to know more. If I'm not willing to be honest, that is not helpful. If people go to my Instagram feed and all they see is sunshine and rainbows, they are going to feel like bunk about themselves. And I am not serving them in any way, shape, or form. If you're amazing at putting on makeup and hair, then do the videos and help a sister out, right? You don't have to do the I woke up like this, do the I didn't wake up like this, but you too can look like this. That is serving others. By the way, I was not pointing at myself as an example. I did not have time to curl the hair today because the kindergartner had an emotional breakdown. Now, here's the other thing. How can you change that story that you wrote down if it happens again? If mom gets divorced a second or third time, how are you going to change that story so you don't have the same ending to that chapter over and over again? If that boy at school says that one thing to you again in the locker room before the football game, how are you going to change your story this time? If your dad says that thing to you again about your career choice and what you want to do, how are you going to change your story in a respectful way but still sticking to your integrity? It is your story. I moved all the way to Wyoming, sight unseen. I had no money to check out the campus. 17 years old because I skipped a grade. Do you think my parents were super excited about their baby girl moving 1,000 miles away with pretty much no money, never having seen the campus and not knowing a single person in the entire state? Nope, but guess what? They were like, hey, we told you weren't athletic, but we did tell you that you're brave and you got this. Go for it. Worst thing that would have happened is what? Would have been a semester of terrible and I would have done something else. Who cares, right? At least I tried. Instead, I've been here for 21 years living a life that I could have only dreamed of when I was 17. Write your story. Change your story. Slide, please. All right. I'm looking at each and every one of you. In case you haven't noticed, that's what I'm doing when I'm pacing back and forth. Also a little bit of ADD, anyway. That big, where you can't pay attention. You guys are ready to be the heroes in your own story. You know the responsibility of leading a life of integrity, a life that's full of kindness to others and laughter. And I tell you what, sitting here talking with you guys and the chance to be with you later on in the workshop, I am inspired to get out there in the community all the more so that we can continue to create a community of leaders that have the skills to serve. Have the uncomfortable conversations. Change your story. Don't let anyone else write a chapter in your story. And remember, if you need me, every single one of those places you can find me. Email, DM, how do the cool kids say it? Slide to my DMs, is that right? I know, I told you there'd be some lameness, okay? I try. I'm almost 40 though, what do you expect? Just say, hey, heard you talk at FCCLA, and then whatever you need, okay? Thanks for showing up, guys, and I cannot wait for the rest of the day. Thank you.